طيب. بسم الله الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أما بعد. Question from last night and the night before. One question was in Sahih Muslim, why do we have Kitab al-Zuhd wa Riqaq and Kitab al-Zuhd, so on and so forth? Is there ever repeated chapter, or why is it redundant, so on and so forth? Before we get into the specific answer, we talk about Toba, Zuhd, Raqa'iq or Riqaq. All of these different things, one level or another, overlap. They overlap. We're talking about melting someone's heart, softening someone's heart. That's going to overlap to Toba. And the virtues of Toba, and what Allah says about Toba, and what Allah does for those who make Toba, and promises the one who wants to make Toba, that's also something which melts the heart. It melts the heart. Nah? It softens the heart. It makes the heart raqiq. And the concept of abstaining from the worldly life and its pleasures and its joys and its sparkle and its glamour, its glitter and its gold, all of the things in the dunya, the marvelous things in the hayatul dunya, trying to avoid them, trying to minimize them, trying to take from them that which you need, so on and so forth, avoid that which you don't need, so on and so forth. Regardless of the different levels of zuhd, because there are levels, as we've explained. Obligatory zuhd, recommended zuhd, basic zuhd, and extreme levels of zuhd. There are different levels of zuhd, and different things that you make zuhd from or of. Al-Muhim, the concept of zuhd is something which is also going to soften your heart. Because from the tactics of the ulama regarding zuhd is to show you the worthlessness of the hayatul dunya. That is worthless. And that is nothing more than a trifle. No matter what you gather and amass, it's still a tiny, teeny little bit. It's nothing in reality. And it doesn't last long, let alone what you have to do to get it. How long you have to fight and scratch, and what you have to sell and compromise and sacrifice to get the worldly life and get the position and the status, and so on and so forth. Looks don't remain, muscles don't remain, so on and so forth. There's always someone bigger and badder than you that's going to come along. That's the nature of life. So all of those things are all techniques of the ulama who use the hadith to allow the people to have zuhd and to practice zuhd. And to know the worthlessness of the dunya is also a means of softening your heart. So they're always going to be connected and always going to do what? Overlap. So therefore, that's first and foremost. So oftentimes we have to understand what these terms mean and how they're used and how they're understood. So it says here, and this is one version of Sahih Muslim. There are many here. We read from Nawawi Sharh. There are many of them. It says Kitab al-Raqa'iq or Kitab al-Riqaq, the book of Raqiqah, softening. And then we have another chapter that says Kitab al-Zuhd, the book of Zuhd. And in brackets it says Wariqaq, as if the brackets aren't from Nawawi. Or maybe they are, maybe they aren't. There are different versions and different prints of the book. I would understand this or not. At the end of the day, if you read the first hadith in Kitab al-Riqaq, it says Babu wa akthari ahli al-jannati al-fuqara wa akthari ahli al-nari al-nisa wa bayan al-fitnati bin-nisa. The first chapter of the heart softening narrations, it says, and this is Nawawi's speech, most of the people of paradise will be the poor. The majority of the inhabitants of Jannah are the poor people. And the majority of the inhabitants of hell are women. And also the fitna of what? Of women. Of course. The fitna of nisa. Tayyib. Then he says here, the next kitab says Kitab al-Toba, the book of repentance. Babun fil hadhi ala tawbati wal farahi biha. The encouragement to make Toba and to be happy with Toba. Some chapters later it says Kitab al-Zuhdi wa Riqaq, the book of Zuhd. And it says Bab al-Dunya sijnun al-mu'min wa jannatun al-kafir. The chapter says that the worldly life is the jail for the believer and a paradise for the kafir, the disbeliever. So we can see here is that they're what? They're all overlapping. They're all what? Overlapping. Everyone understand this? Was it originally placed in this order like by Muslim? Was it done later on? Al-Muhim? It makes no difference because they're all similar. And there are many other books like this in chapters what? Like this. That's in brief, huh? Wallahu alam. Fadal Shaykh. Jazakallah khair. Barakallahu fiqh. Wa alaikum salam wa alaikum salam wa Jazakallah khairan. May the peace be with you. As far as the concept of what the Prophet ﷺ said, or the address, the letter that was sent to that King Herakl, and if you turn away, then you have the sin of Al-Arisiyin. ماذا وجدت? What have you found? يسلموا
تقليدا له لأن أصابه اتباع الأكابر. Generally it's saying that the فلاحين they are from the عامة الناس, and that Herakl as the leader of the people, they would blind follow him with regards to what it is that he is upon.
طيب. What's your source? You mind sharing them with us? Fath al-Bari. طيب. Volume and page?
It's 39 from the chapter of
What volume? طيب. In Fath al-Bari, what's the first book that you come across before volume 1? Very important. It's a book or a volume called HadithDisciple. HadithDisciple. Very important book for a student of knowledge and for a talib al-hadith. To familiarize himself with a book called HadithDisciple. If you can't read it, if your Arabic is not strong enough, or your ilm al-hadith isn't strong enough, just know about it. Called HadithDisciple, which is considered to be the introduction to Fath al-Bari. طيب. Jazakallahu khairan. What we wanted was for the student to do a little bit of research and put forth a little bit of effort for his own benefit, first and foremost, and also to learn more things about Fath al-Bari and Bukhari and so on and so forth. Type. So that was the reason why I didn't answer his question last night. As far as the information that he mentioned, or the summary of the answer, is that before we get into what's correct or what's meant by this, we have to understand once more the atmosphere of the hadith. The atmosphere of the hadith. Like we talk about the tafsir. What was the general theme before and after that ayah? So the atmosphere of this hadith is that the Prophet ﷺ is expanding. And the dawah of Islam is expanding. And the Prophet is reaching out to other people besides the stubborn, obstinate, pig-headed Arabs who refuse to listen to common sense and refuse to accept and submit to what they know is the truth. I am not a liar, I'm not mad, I'm not crazy, I'm not a poet. And you know that. You all know that. But your pride prevents you from submitting until it's too late. So, the Prophet ﷺ wanted to reach out to someone who may be more open-minded. Someone who isn't stuck like they were stuck, mentally stuck on worshiping idols and killing this one and enslaving that one and doing what they were doing. Maybe someone who has more culture, someone who's more cultivated, someone who's more educated, maybe he'll accept, maybe he'll listen. And that's why he sent that message to that king. Everyone understand this? And it's a very important lesson in da'wah. So he sent the king the message. And at the time, the messenger, or the one who went to converse with him, wasn't a friend of the Prophet, but he was an enemy. But he was a just man. And we know later on he became a companion. May Allah be pleased with him. But he was his enemy, but he was just. And that's also another very important benefit with regards to the Arabs. In the time of the Prophet ﷺ, one may ask the question, why would Allah send down the revelation to them? They were backwards and quaint and this and that. Why would Allah send it to them? They did these crazy things. But there were many virtues that they had, and many characteristics that they had that other nations didn't, with their advancement in culture and science and literacy, etc. But there were certain things they just didn't do. And there were certain things that were always bad and looked down upon to them. And from that was lying. Everyone understand this? Even to your enemy. So at the end of the day, he asked them the question, what do you know about this man? What's your relationship to this man? Who follows him? Do they leave their religion? Etc. Right? And the Prophet ﷺ, he was offering to him, but he wasn't apologetic. And that's also another very important lesson in da'wah. Aslim taslim. Accept the message and you'll be safe. He didn't get on his knees and kiss his feet like the other people would have done. This is what it is. We're not aggressively challenging you. We're calling you to the deen, but we're not apologizing either. I would understand this. And then it says at the end of the letter, and if you turn away after you've seen and you've heard and you know the truth, Heraclius, then you have the sin of the Arisiyin. Everyone understand this? So that's the atmosphere of the hadith. Before we even get into what's meant by that word or that term, Al-Arisiyin. Who are they? But you have to understand the whole entire tafsir of the what? Of the hadith and of the story. Clear or not? If you turn away, then upon you is the sin of these people. The ulama of Islam, they have many different interpretations of that word, al-arisiyin. Several. They don't agree on one interpretation. What you mentioned is only one interpretation. Some of them say that the Prophet saw a specific type of people, followers or descendants of someone specific. Followers or in that location and in that place. And that he was talking about the fire worshippers, the Majus, who worshipped fire, but there's certain things that they prohibited in their religion. In other words, they were like monotheists, but they weren't absolute monotheists, right? And we know that when a land is conquered, the people who are allowed to live in that land and pay the tax for safety and protection are Jews and Christians, and also Majus, Zoroastrians. Even though they're not Jews and Christians, but they're allowed to pay the jizya. As the narration states, Sunnu fihim sunnat ahl kitab. Treat them like the kitabis. And one of the reasons the ulama say is that they have certain principles and values with them like the kitabis, unlike other pagans and mushriks. You understand this? And another interpretation is that we're talking about farmers. The Prophet ﷺ, as if he said, if you turn away, then upon you will be the sin of the farmers. Meaning, he mentioned one group from the people, a class of people, to mean or to include everyone else. And that's a well-known Arabic style. To mention al-ba'd, intending al-kull. Some meaning all. Everyone understand this? Some meaning what? Some meaning all. Everyone understand this? Some meaning all. The concept of one thing mentioned or being mentioned to include other things. Don't eat from riba. And there's much more that you do with riba than just what? Eating. One part is mentioned to include other things. So that's one interpretation. Whether it means the farmers, those who work, the weak, the peasantry. If you turn away, then you get the sin of those who remain upon their Christianity, because the peasants will follow the nobility. Or whether they're talking about al-arisiyin, who are specific people from his kingdom. Al-Muhim, whether it's this or that, that's what's meant by that hadith. Is that you have heard the truth, you know the truth, you have common sense, you have intelligence, you have access to resources, not like these stubborn pagan Arabs who know nothing but their forefathers. They don't even read books. Everyone understand this? The Christians, they had culture. Just like the Jews had what? They had ilm, they had knowledge. They had access to information. The Arab society was a simple society. The other societies weren't what? Weren't like that. So if you turn away after you've heard the truth and you've known the truth, then upon you will be the sin of those who also remain upon their kufr. That's the bottom line of the hadith, whether it means the farmers, arisiyin, a man named Aris, etc. Bikhtisar, yani. Wallahu alam. What was the last question from yesterday? From last night?
Question, initials OS from Columbia, Missouri. For the silent prayers, is one supposed to recite in a whisper manner, and should it be enough? Should it be low enough that only they can hear it themselves? Also, how should they articulate letters like ayn and ha?
When you recite the silent prayers, recite the Quran in a manner in which you can basically hear yourself. It doesn't have to be loud. It doesn't have to be so audible and sharp, a way in which you can hear it. Even if that's still, or shuf, look at it like this. Shuf, malish. It's a silent prayer. You don't have to hear it yourself. You don't have to hear it yourself. But make sure that you're actually pronouncing the words and saying it. So I'm making the salah. My lips are moving. And I'm not just saying it in my mind or my head, but I'm actually pronouncing it. And if I raise my voice, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, Maliki Yawmiddin, Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Wahakadha. Ayn, Sin, Qaf, all the same. You recite the letter like you normally would recite it. You recite the letters like you would normally recite the other letters. And it doesn't have to be loud or one sharper than the other. In brief, Wallahu A'lam. Fadal.
Initials J.A. from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Assalamu alaikum, Shaykh. There's a hadith about the companion who complained to the Prophet ﷺ about having evil thoughts. And he ﷺ said, this is a clear sign of faith. Question continues. Can you explain that hadith and most importantly tell us a remedy for this?
Question comes from Philly regarding the hadith about the companions complaining to the Messenger of Allah about having bad thoughts or evil thoughts. And the Prophet saying, ذَلِكَ صَرِيحُ الْإِيمَانِ or صَرِيحُ الْإِيمَانِ. That's pure faith or strong faith. What does that mean? What's the remedy, etc.? The scholars of Islam, they say, if a bad thought comes to you and you fight it and you combat it and you counter it, that proves that you have Iman. And for a person to complain about a problem that's going on regarding their religion and to want the cure and want the remedy is also a sign of strong Iman. And the only people who are afraid of hypocrisy are believers. And the only people who are safe from hypocrisy or feel safe are hypocrites. So that's what's meant by that. You're not going to ask a question and be concerned about your religion unless you're actually scared and afraid of losing your religion or having shortcomings in your what? Religion. So due to the fact that you want to find out and you have a problematic issue, that's a sign of what? Strong Iman. That's what's meant by that. Not allowing the thoughts to fester and to sit there and to remain and to sizzle and simmer. Everyone understand this? La. And entertain those thoughts. That's what's meant by that. As far as the cure, then it's mentioned in the hadiths. فَلْيَسْتَعِذْ بِاللَّهِ وَلْيَنْتَهِ. Seek Allah's refuge, أعوذ billah. And stop immediately. Do not allow the thought to take place. Do not allow the thought to continue. Stop it immediately as soon as it comes, even if it hurts you and if it's painful and it's stress or stressful and it keeps coming. Stop it. Stop it. Everyone understands? Cut it off before it plants. Everyone understand? And then seek Allah's refuge and seek Allah's refuge in the beginning and in the end and turn away from it. Also is having more knowledge of the deen, staying in the dhikr of Allah, staying upon the adhkar, make sure your household is Islamically clean. Islamically clean. Many people, their houses are clean, squeaky clean, they can eat off the floor, but they have things in their houses which displease Allah and which are spiritually dirty. Everyone understand this? All right? So stay in the dhikr of Allah and make the special supplications regarding the shaitan being far from you and keeping him away from you. All right? Things like this. Bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. Wallahu alam.
Next question from London, UK. Initials SM. What is the aura of a slave woman, and how would this ruling manifest in public life?
Question comes from the UK. What is the aura of a slave woman? And how would the question manifest itself in public life? Many brothers and sisters, they ask about slavery. And they ask about slave women. And alhamdulillah, this is a valid question over which the ulama have explained and differed and agreed. And they've mentioned this issue in Kutub al-Fiqh about the aura of a free woman versus the aura of a slave woman. Everyone understand this? And there are different reasons behind this. The life of a slave is not like the life of someone who's going to be free. There's a difference. However, and it's not pertaining to this question, I don't think that's the atmosphere of this question, but other people, colleges, TV, they live in a hypothetical world. Totally hypothetical world. And they say Islam promotes slavery, it allows slavery. You can have a sex slave in Islam, a concubine, a right-hand possession, it's so on and so on and so forth. Okay, no problem. Tayyib. Are there slaves now? Are the Muslims practicing slavery now? Is the main reason behind slavery in existence now, which is al-jihad fi sabilillah, fighting, not jihad al-nafs, dawah, jihad no, actual swords clashing, people's lives being taken, and people being conquered and taken over. Is that right now in the United States or the UK or Australia? Yes or no? It isn't. So you making this big, gigantic, huge problem is totally theoretical and hypocritical. It doesn't exist. It could happen if the Muslims gain power, if maybe. But the monster they're trying to make right now is not even under the bed at all. Everyone understand this? And the shaitan, he tricks people. And they talk about these things which do not exist and haven't existed for Allah alam how many years. Everyone understand this? So the people, they should stop this stupidity. Everyone understand this? Talking about things which are totally hypothetical. And all the efforts that you get talking about slavery and this and that, once you find out about Islam, the Quran, the basic teachings of the deen, why is a person even made a slave? What's the purpose of slavery? Making a slave, etc. But they don't. So we have to be mindful of that. So brothers, they say, can I have a right-hand possession in America? Or I can have a concubine, so on and so forth. But if I said right now, go out on the battlefield and give your life for Allah's sake, would you do it? Are you ready? Do you deserve to own someone's neck if you yourself have not what? Risked yours. And this is one of the main wisdoms behind that, is that it's a fair trade. A person was fearless and he risked his life in the cause of Allah. And from the reward of that is that now he does what? Possesses someone else's neck. Everyone understand this? Because he gave what? His. Have you fought? Will you fight? Can you fight? Or are you clinging to your worldly life? And you talking about slavery. Everyone understand this or not? Or brothers or sisters, they may ask the question, a slave. If slavery was permissible, would you even have one? You can't even get a second wife. Your wife doesn't allow you to have a second wife at all. Let alone have a what? A concubine in the household with her breast out, because that's not the odor of a slave girl. Everyone understand this? A woman who's wearing hijab, niqab, and gloves, your first wife says what? No way. Let alone you're going to have a what? A woman half dressed in which you can sleep with. So the people that oftentimes living in a what? A total what? Total fantasy world. And it's all right. Every now and then you have to do what? You have fantasy every now and then. You dream, you think about things. Kitab al-Tamanni, right? The book of hoping. This is in the books of Hadith. But not every single day with these types of issues. So that's my advice with regards to slavery and all of these different issues that are problematic, that people just bring up, and they not only ride on these boats, but they make them islands. Wallahu alam.
Initials MR from Surrey, UK. Sheikh, we ask Allah to benefit the Muslims with your knowledge. Should the listener say Ameen to the dua of the Khatib? And Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, when he mentioned the Messenger, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam.
A question from the UK once more. May Allah bless you as well, Akhi. And may Allah Azza wa Jal give you more, bigger, and better. Ameen. With regards to saying Ameen or Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, the scholars, they differ. Two views. Should you say it or say it not? One view based off of the generality of not speaking during the khutbah, not talking. And the second view is based off of the generality of that when someone says Ameen or someone makes a dua, you say Ameen. And when the Prophet ﷺ's name is mentioned, you say alayhi salatu wasalam or sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So either or, you can't lose. It's not going to hurt you to stay away from it, and it's not going to hurt you to do it. Wallahu alam. Do what you feel is closest to piety for you as a person. Wallahu alam.
Initials SE from Munich, Germany. Assalamu alaikum mufti. Before we continue the next book, could you go through the explanation of the second chapter, perfume and siwak? I think you missed it.
Tayyib. Question from Germany. Before we go into the next chapter, the chapter of perfume and siwak, meaning in Kitab al-Jum'ah, she says, or they say that they think we missed it. Tayyib. Let's double check, inshallah. If we missed it, we'll go over it, inshallah. Jazakallah khairan.
Assalamu alaikum mufti. Initials EN from Melbourne, Australia. When are you planning to come to Melbourne?
Questions from Australia. Assalamu alaikum. When do you plan on coming to Australia? Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I would like to come in April, if possible. Inshallah. Me and my companions. The rest of my what? My bandits. HadithDisciple bandits. We're at the round table now, inshallah. Discussing and strategizing if it's possible for us to come in April. If the decision is made by the permission of Allah, then we'll announce it publicly, just like we did with the Malaysia trip, inshallah ta'ala. And with Allah's all success, if He wills to allow us to go, and I'll be more than happy and enthused of going. Look forward to the trip, inshallah. Wallahu alam. And if we don't come in April, then whenever Allah wants us there. Bi-idhnillah.
And it shows KW from Queens, New York. Is the recitation of the last three surahs and rubbing the hands over your body an authentic hadith? And if so, exactly how is it performed?
Khair, inshallah, we'll take this question in the next class, either tomorrow or Thursday. Jazakum khair, we run out of time.